Welcome to Buzzed and Baffled, the podcast where the wine flows, the stories twist, and the truth is always stranger than fiction. We laugh, we sip, and we dive into tales that leave us buzzing with questions and baffled by reality.
But before we uncork the weirdness, a quick disclaimer. We're not experts, just curious storytellers with glasses in hand. All content within this podcast is our humble opinion. Some content may be dark, disturbing, or downright inappropriate, so listener discretion is advised. And remember, nothing pairs better with a wild story than a good pour, so let's get buzzed and baffled.
We're back. We are back. Again. But now, somehow, future, this is a time skip. Not a time skip, we're going back in time. Yeah, because we just recorded next week's episode. Yeah, we recorded episode 27 because Nicole wanted to go first, so this is episode 26. Now I get to be a passenger princess at the tail end. So you're going to hear the same BS in this episode over again in episode 27 because we talked about location and very temporal things. Because we are on site at Ace's. On site still. Not still. For the first time. First time on site. On site, Lisa. She cooked us dinner. She gave us wine. She made us pie. Yeah, the pie was awesome. So, this is we're living the life. Mm-hmm. Yep, we sure are. What do we have for a wine? Tonight, I raided Lisa's fridge, and I have chosen a Omega Rosé. Not a Rosé, no way, not you. I know, John is going to be shocked. Mm-hmm. This is wine from Portugal. It is made with 100% indigenous Portuguese grapes. The varietal Omega Rosé does not hold back. Fresh and vibrant, its light effervescence makes it the perfect rosé wine for all occasions. Soothe while chilled. Okay. I'm going to hold this so I can, and this is as far as my arm goes. Got it. There we go. Yeah, finish our future wine. I'll finish up the I can't tilt that herb anymore. Yeah, that's why the pour was so heavy. My bum arm over here. Just a bum. Alrighty, are you ready for this? This was a little sweeter than the bowl. Oh yeah, I should probably taste the wine before I jump into my story. I'm just so eager to tell you this. You guys should have watched her editing it while we were waiting for dinner. She was like a little kid trying to fix her book report. Yes. Ooh, this is good though. I like the little effervescence in it. Mm-hmm. It's a tingly on the tongue. Refresco. Before I get into this, I do have a disclaimer regarding the accuracy of some of the things I'm going to say. Okay. And the reason I'm saying that is because the person I'm going to tell you about is a con artist. So naturally, things about her life may or may not be true. Are you trying to say that a con artist might lie? Mm-hmm. Okay. And beyond that, so I've never spent more time on researching a pod than this one. Did you do a cold deep dive? I did, and dig into the charts and the timelines. I had seen an episode about this on a true crime show, and I couldn't find it, so I watched a different one because I wanted to verify what I had in here. Because I figure if some HBO show's reporting it, it's going to be more accurate than a Wikipedia article. Yeah, but there was a lot of not contradictory information, but it wasn't consistent across all the sources that I read. So there's some ambiguity. Yes. Okay. So there's some things in here that may be true, some that might be truth adjacent. So everything this woman, it's a woman, right? Yeah. So everything this woman says we have to take with a grain of salt. Yep. Especially, I could find almost nothing about her childhood. Interesting. Mm-hmm. And I titled this Sante Kimes and the Art of the Steal, and by I titled it, I mean ChatGPT gave me that title because I can't come up with anything witty on my own. ChatGPT is a lifesaver. Who do you think makes all these witty ads that I have that go up? They write them for me. I gotta have help.
Yeah. So I read multiple articles. I did read something from the federal courts. So, I tried to. There were some things, and then I'd read in a different article, and it was the exact opposite. So I put together what I believed to be the most truthful version.
Okay. I find it interesting that even you couldn't find things out about her childhood. Mm-hmm. Like stalking people is kind of your favorite activity.
Okay, Nicole.
Put that in there just for you.
I don't stalk people. I just do research.
How long did it take you to find the guy that I was going on a date with and I wasn't sure what his name was?
They sent 2 pieces of bag in less than 30 seconds on my cell phone. Alrighty. On March 14th, 1998, the body of David Kasdan was found in a dumpster near LAX.
Okay.
He had been shot in the back of the head.
Well, that's not good.
No. During the investigation, detectives spoke to his daughter, who revealed that about 3 months earlier, David had received a bank statement for a mortgage in his name on a property he did not own.
I would be concerned by that.
The property was in Las Vegas. And this is completely unrelated. This has nothing to really do with Vegas and the fact that we're going there in 3 days.
I'm so excited.
Naturally, he was a little freaked out, but he immediately recognized the address. It belonged to his old friends, Kenneth and Sante Kimes. Less than a month later, that same house was destroyed by an arsonist.
Wah, wah.
Sante Kimes was born in Oklahoma in 1934. Her mother was from Illinois, and her father was an herbalist who immigrated to the U.S. from India. An herbalist is...
You saw the look on my face. Goes
someone who puts, potions, not potions, but, here, if I mix these 3 leaves, it's going to cure your gout.
Oh, she's like a witch doctor.
Yeah. Some things described him as a magician. Again, there was a lot of ambiguity in...
Because where did they immigrate from?
He was from India.
Well,
and culturally,
that is something that happens, and if you live in a more rural area, you may not have a lot of modernized medicine, so you work with what you got.
The family lived in poverty, and Sante longed for wealth, power, and status. She often told people that her father abandoned the family when she was 3 years old, forcing her mother into sex work. But in truth, her father died of heart failure when she was 5.
Oh, both are sad.
Yeah.
But also, why would you choose to tell people your mother was a prostitute?
Well,
that's the story I'm going with.
It'll become clear on why. From a young age, Sante displayed troubling behavior. Her sister Retha claimed that she had an incestuous relationship with her older brother and often displayed pyromaniac tendencies, holding lit matches up to Retha's fingertips for fun.
So that's problematic.
She also tortured and mutilated animals on the family farm.
And this is Sante?
This is Sante.
So we have some red flag behavior.
Okay. As a teenager, the family moved to Los Angeles, where she essentially ran wild. She frequented a local malt shop and movie theater that was owned by Kelly and Dottie Seligman, who for some reason,
she ran wild going to a malt shop?
Yeah, okay. Some reason they took pity on her and would occasionally let her into the movies for free.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like she charmed them, which is something that's prevalent throughout her entire life.
Superficially charming.
Dottie's sister and brother-in-law, Mary and Edward Chambers, wanted children but couldn't conceive. They adopted Sante when she was a teenager.
Legally?
Mm-hmm. And she started going by the name Sandra Chambers, a name she would use for several years. The Chambers family moved to Reno, where she graduated high school. Her classmates described her as a bully who enjoyed tormenting younger students. She was caught stealing from a store but not prosecuted, and once she took her adopted father's credit card on an unauthorized shopping spree.
She sounds delightful.
Yeah.
I bet you they're real glad they adopted her.
Yeah.
Pretty much immediately after high school, she got married, but within 3 months they were divorced.
Mm-hmm.
In 1957, she marries again a man named Edward Walker, who's a general contractor in Sacramento. They had one son, Kent.
Okay.
In late 1960, Sante started a fire in one of Edward's homes as part of an insurance fraud scheme. The blaze caused significant damage to the kitchen and resulted in a $10,000 insurance payout, which is about $100,000 today.
So she learned something important there.
Mm-hmm. The following year, she was convicted of shoplifting and the couple separated, but their divorce wasn't formalized until 1969 because they continued to reconcile and split over and over again.
He just never learned his lessons.
Okay. During the marriage, she had numerous affairs with her husband's business partners.
Oh my God.
And he's a contractor, remember? Over a dozen of the houses he built burned down.
How long did it take the insurance companies to catch on?
I don't know that they ever did.
I mean, I bet you they did now.
Mm-hmm. In 1971, so now they're fully divorced, she and her son Kent, and I'm saying Kent, just keep that in mind, moved to Palm Springs, California, where she met Kenneth Kimes, a motel owner and developer who was 17 years older than her. Sante read about him in a magazine article that said his net worth was about $20 million, which is like $160 million today.
So she's like, ooh, payday.
Yes, she pursued him relentlessly.
She stalked him.
Mm-hmm. In 1975.
Do you have a picture of this woman?
I do, but I have a note when to show it to you.
Okay.
In 1975, they had a son, Kenneth. So she has a son.
So Kent and Kenneth.
Yep.
And Kenneth Jr. because dad is also Kenneth.
Okay. So he goes by Kenny.
Not Bing?
No. I mean, I could make a quick swap.
Yeah.
On the fly. He was raised to believe that he was just like God's gift to the earth. He was better than everyone else, and he was entitled to whatever he wanted.
Like, his shit don't stink, my feet don't touch.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sante and Kenneth Sr. eventually did get married in 1981, and they lived a life of luxury. They had houses all over the place. I mean, he's worth a lot of money.
Mm.
Sante frequently told people that Kenneth Sr. was an ambassador. He was not. And that lie once got them into a reception at the White House during the Ford administration.
Wow! That is impressive. How do you lie your way into a presidential dinner?
Yeah, and she's just like,
Was it before or after Nixon?
after.
So they hadn't tightened security after all that?
Don't you know who your ambassadors are?
Yeah, I would hope so.
She also occasionally claimed to be Elizabeth Taylor.
Now I really want to see a picture to see
I
if she
can
looks
only
like
find
Elizabeth
one
Taylor.
picture of her that has even like the teeniest resemblance. This bitch did not look like Elizabeth Taylor.
Did she have purple eyes? Did she have a lot of husbands?
She had 2 at least.
So that's not nearly the number you need to be like Elizabeth Taylor.
There was a clip in one of the documentaries that said her husband Kenneth Sr. She had worn a white outfit once, and he mentioned how nice it looked on her. So from then on, she only wore white.
She's mentally ill.
Yeah. The Kimeses had housekeepers and were able to pay them, obviously, but instead preferred to exploit them.
Of course.
They traveled to Mexico to find young homeless girls and promise food, shelter, and work.
I don't like how that goes.
Sante would then threaten to report them to immigration if they didn't do what she wanted.
She's a devil.
One girl was able to escape, and in 1985, Sante was arrested and convicted of violating federal anti-slavery laws.
They didn't have human trafficking back then, but I'm glad they got her on the next best thing.
She also lost a related civil suit. She and Kenneth Sr. had spent a large chunk of their wealth on lawyers and legal fees defending themselves against these accusations of slavery.
Did it occur to them that maybe just don't do slavery and then you don't have to waste your money on lawyers?
The DA coming across your desk in 1985, a charge of slavery? You're like, what?
And you're in California. Like, if it was like a southern state, you might be like, okay, well, But California, that'd be what's happening.
Sante got her insurance to pay for the damages in the civil suit, allegedly by threatening the CEO of the insurance company.
Is that what I need to start doing to get things covered by insurance? Is just like threaten the CEO?
She was sentenced to 5 years in prison for the crimes. Kenneth Sr. accepted a plea deal and also went into alcohol treatment.
I wonder if he rolled on her and, like, gave her the blame.
Kenneth Sr. and Kenny lived a relatively normal life until 1989 when Sante was released from prison after serving just 3 years.
Did she get out on good behavior?
I doubt it.
You know she was running some like gambling ring in the prison.
On September 18th, 1990, Sante hired Elmer Holmgren, a 50-year-old lawyer, to burn down her house. The home had a $900,000 lien on it, which is about $2.2 million. That's gigantic.
Yeah.
Making it virtually impossible to sell because the lien is higher than what the house is worth.
What did Kenneth do for money?
He was a motel owner and property developer.
Okay.
He owned a chain of motels.
Okay.
Elmer Holmgren did burn down the house, but quickly admitted his involvement to the insurance investigators.
He squealed!
Uh-huh.
He sang!
You could say he cried like a canary. A month later, Sante burned down his law offices. Allegedly.
Wow, okay.
Because he had documents that would incriminate her. As part of the investigation into his arson, Elmer agreed to cooperate with authorities and wear a wire to implicate Sante as well. But before he could, he was invited on a trip to Costa Rica with the Kimeses.
Why would he say yes to that?
He was never seen again.
Like, I'm working with the feds to incriminate this woman, and they've invited me out of the country. This seems like a great idea. I'm going to take this trip. Okay.
Kenneth Sr. died in 1994 from an aneurysm.
Do they know that for sure?
No.
Okay.
He had not updated his will and left Sante nothing. Everything was still to be passed to his children from his first marriage. Sante falsified his death certificate and hid his death so she could retain access to his money.
When you say hid his death, are we talking like an ice chest somewhere?
No. But she didn't file things like she needed to.
Or she like didn't file the death certificate and stuff.
Kenny, his son, didn't learn about the death until 2 months later, and his other children didn't find out for nearly 2 years.
Where did they think their dad was? I'm assuming they didn't have contact with him because of his crazy wife.
But she would just say, oh, he's in the shower, or whatever.
I mean, I'm impressed by the gumption and the willingness to, like, stick it through.
Following Kenny Sr.'s death, Sante and Kenny grew closer.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. She convinced him to drop out of college in 1996, and there were some allegations of a sexual relationship between the two.
What's the...
Very well.
Oh, no!
I don't think that's the one you wanted to pick.
No, that's not it either. I don't think we have one for that.
So we're going to fast forward back to where we started, March 1998, and David Kasdan gave the mysterious bank statement, the mortgage.
Okay. Is this for the house that burned down, the $900,000 lien house? Okay.
Well, this is the house that he didn't own that was in Las Vegas.
Okay.
Years earlier, I do not know why, and I could not find out why, David Kasdan had allowed Sante to use his name on the deed to the house. I do not know why.
Like, you guys can't see the look on my face, but the amount of stupidity that I'm hearing in this story astounds me.
But
I'm not going to let some that I barely know put my name on their
he was
house.
friends with Sante's husband, Kenneth Sr., before he and Sante ever got together.
If someone can't put their house in their name, there's a reason for that. It's probably sketchy.
Mm-hmm. So Sante, being Sante, convinces a notary to authenticate David's forged signature on a loan application, which uses that house as collateral. So essentially, she's taken out a mortgage to get cash on a house that he owns because he's on the deed.
I mean, you work as a notary and in mortgages. How does that get by checks and balances?
You have a bad notary.
So a dirty notary.
Yeah, a dirty notary.
Okay.
At the same time, around March 1998, Sante and Kenny were in Utah and stole a car by paying for it with a bad check. So they drove it off the lot before it was cashed. Also, why is a car dealership taking a check as payment?
Like, you take a check from the bank, not like
check.
a personal check. Or like, I'm a sicko, what year was that?
1998.
So it was at least probably like $16,000, $17,000 for a brand new car.
You're very close. It was $15,000.
Like, places don't take $15,000 personal checks.
Nope. So they're living in Las Vegas, and they hire a man named Stan Patterson to help them move back to California. Once they're back and settled in California, David Kasdan confronts them about the forgery. Like, hey, what the hell? Why is there a mortgage in my name?
Yeah.
That I did not sign for.
Is he having some regrets about putting the house in his name?
He might be. In response, Sante orders Kenny to kill David.
Her son.
Kenny shoots David in the back of the head on March 9th, 1998, and Sante, Kenny, and an accomplice put his body in the dumpster at LAX.
Did they shoot him at LAX, or did they transport him?
They transported him there.
Okay.
During the investigation for the car theft, authorities speak to Stan Patterson, who did confess selling guns to the Kimeses and also teaching them how to make a silencer out of a potato.
Sorry, I was like, I still had questions before that, and now I have like backup questions.
Mm-hmm.
Did they transport him in the car they stole?
I don't know, probably.
Because that's like a secondary location you gotta clean up now.
Mm-hmm.
Also, you can turn a potato into a silencer?
Apparently.
I'm gonna have to do some research on this.
Yeah, we didn't learn about that in CPL class.
Yeah, like nobody taught me that.
A few weeks later, in June 1988, Stan Patterson receives a phone call from Sante in which she says she's obtained a townhouse in New York City and she wants him to be the building manager, like the maintenance man. He agrees to meet with her in New York City on July 5th.
So she's screwed him over a bunch of times, but I was going to show up for this.
Mm-hmm. Before he leaves, he tells the FBI about the meeting because he's in trouble too because he sold them guns, I'm sure illegally.
Mm-hmm.
And those guns were used to commit a crime.
Yeah.
So he tells the FBI about the meeting. He does go to New York and meets up with Sante and Kenny in the lobby of a hotel, and immediately the NYPD and FBI jointly arrest them as fugitives on the warrant for the stolen Utah car.
Now, I'm picturing it like a Diddy arrest.
I don't know. I don't know what hotel it was. But here are their mugshots from that arrest.
Okay. And so, I'm assuming this is the gun guy.
That's Kenny.
Oh! I thought he was going to be, like, Indian.
And this is Sante.
She does not look anything like Elizabeth Taylor. Also, where are her eyebrows? You know. Also, he just looks unpleasant.
Mm-hmm. He looks like the shithead he is.
He looks like his name should be Chad.
Mm-hmm. July 5th, the same day as the arrest in the hotel, was the last day that 82-year-old New York City socialite and former professional ballerina Irene Silverman was seen at her townhouse. This is Irene. She's a sweet lady.
Did you say professional ballerina?
When she's 82.
Oh, okay, so she's 82. I was like, hold the phone. I think you're just fucking with me. There is no way this woman is a ballerina.
In her youth, she was a professional ballerina,
okay.
And then she married a wealthy real estate
She looks like that actor. He was in like a movie. I can't think of his name, where he was a playwright.
Are you thinking of, I know who you're thinking of. He was in the Birdcage with Robin Williams.
Yes.
Yeah. I cannot think of his name.
Okay, we'll look this up. Hold my mic.
He's on Only Murders in the Building. What the hell is his name?
No, that's actually not the one. He looks like him too.
Oh, okay.
No.
She's looking it up.
So you're thinking of Nathan Lane.
Yes, that's who I'm thinking of.
But that's not the one I'm thinking of. My ironclad memory is coming into play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I need a little more from you than an actor in a movie to be able to help you narrow it down.
God, I feel like I'm talking to my mother about the name of a movie. I can't think of it. I'll keep looking.
Okay. Following her husband's death in the 1980s, Irene converted part of their multi-million-dollar townhome into apartments and rented them out not because she needed the income, but because she enjoyed the company. She didn't advertise her rentals or something. It was all kind of word of mouth, and if you knew about it, you knew about it. And she rented to quite a few people of status, including Daniel Day-Lewis and Shaka Khan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and she's in the upper echelons of society.
He played Truman, I think. Is that?
Philip Seymour Hoffman?
Nope.
Okay. Because he did play a playwright.
Keep going.
Okay.
I'm looking.
Irene's business manager contacted the NYPD on July 5th, stating that she was missing and her housekeeping staff couldn't find her. It was especially concerning because Irene very rarely ever left her house, and she never, ever, ever left alone. If she was leaving, she always had a staff member with her. The NYPD searched everywhere in her giant house, which of course now has a bunch of apartments built in it. They interviewed her staff, who did confirm they had seen her earlier in the morning. She was a very well-liked employer. She took really good care of her staff. She gave them weekends off.
Okay.
And when the police asked the staff if they thought, is there anyone who might harm her, or was there, anything recent that occurred unusually, the staff said, well, there has been some suspicious activity in apartment 1B with one of the recent tenants.
Okay.
The previous month, Kenny Kimes had moved into apartment 1B of the townhouse. He used an assumed name, Manny Guerrero. He had his assistant call and ask about renting the room for 1 month. Irene always required references, but Manny arrived to their meeting with the $6,000 monthly rent in cash. And Irene, growing up in the Depression, appreciated this because she wouldn't have to claim it.
Okay, yeah.
So,
I get it, lady.
Yeah, I mean, she's worth like millions of dollars and she doesn't want to pay taxes.
Yeah.
Okay. So she agrees to rent him the room on the promise that he bring his references and ID in the next day. They were never produced. Shortly after he moved in, Irene expressed concerns about him to her staff, who agreed. He would not let them in to clean the apartment, which was actually a part of the rent, and they had noticed him sneaking around to avoid the cameras in the building. And the cameras were not a recording system, they were just live cameras. So I could see.
It's just I can see live television.
Yeah, like if a package was being delivered or something. Yeah. He was also caught standing outside of Irene's office door several times. The only person he let into his apartment was his older assistant, Eva Guerra. Irene decided shortly after he moved in that she wanted him out and made plans with her business manager that on Monday, July 6th, she was going to serve him with eviction papers.
Okay.
On the day of her disappearance, Manny was nowhere to be found. Police ran his and his assistant's name through their databases, but of course nothing came up.
Because they're not real people.
With the help of Irene's staff, a composite sketch was drafted and put on the news the next day. One of the FBI officers who was involved in the arrest of Sante and Kenny at the hotel the day before happened to be watching the news and saw that news story and immediately recognized the composite sketch, but it was a man with a different name. He called the precinct that was investigating Irene's disappearance and told officers he had someone in custody who looked just like the sketch. That's when authorities found out that Manny Guerrero and Ava Guerra were actually Kenny and Sante Kimes. When she was arrested, Sante had several of Irene's personal documents, including her passport and social security card, in her purse.
This woman is brazen.
Yeah. Sante claimed that she and Irene were good friends, and Irene had asked her to help sell the townhouse. Later, the NYPD got a call from the security officer at the hotel where they were staying where they got arrested, because Kenny had checked a bag at the desk, but obviously never returned to retrieve it.
Mm-hmm.
When police opened it, they found a folder labeled "The Final Dynasty."
Okay, I kind of like that system that she's got going on there.
It contained a forged deed transferring Irene's multi-million-dollar townhouse to a shell corporation that Sante owned.
Of course.
They also found Irene's keys and tapes of recorded phone calls that she had made. They had tapped her phone line to try to get her social security number, which they needed to effectuate the property transfer.
But also, how often do you give out your social security number on the telephone? Like when I'm calling you, Kyle, I'm like, hey, do I need to pick anything up before I come over to record the pod? By the way, my social security number is 888-555-6363.
I know. For as smart and as devious as she is, they're not really good at some stuff. There were also guns, disguises, plastic handcuffs, thousands of dollars in cash, the outside box of a stun gun.
What was the stun gun?
Well, I don't know. And a date rape drug in the bag.
Oh, well, that's not promising.
Mm-hmm. Detectives also found notebooks in which Sante was practicing at writing Irene's signature, and they found logs of them tracking Irene's daily routine. They also literally wrote out the steps that they were going to take to get ownership of the townhouse. So it was like, step 1, use a fake name to get a rental.
So, like me writing down the steps so I can remember how I fixed the audio, because now it's pristine and everyone can hear everything perfectly, right, guys? They did that for murder and fraud.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, they were more successful at that than I have been at audio.
Yeah, it didn't take him 26 tries to get the audio to get the deed.
27, technically.
Yeah. To get the forged deed, Sante had dressed up as Irene, wearing a nightgown and put on a wig, and pretended to be sick in bed when a notary came by and notarized her signature, which was already signed.
That's a second bad notary.
2 bad notaries.
What is wrong with your kind?
You know, it's really a shame. And at work, we get documents in all the time where a notary cannot do it right. I'm like, you don't need to have 2 brain cells to be a notary. That's not a hard job.
Like, isn't it watch them sign it, stamp it? Like, that's the process.
You put the date and a name, and they just can't get it right.
Okay.
And I have the next picture here is an interview they did on 60 Minutes or something like that. So that's them. In which, of course,
She got crazy eyes.
they're professing their innocence and how they were framed and all that stuff.
I mean, it looks like they're professing something.
Oh, they're holding hands.
Yeah, I'm like, is that, yep.
Yep, and that's 1998.
I'm going to have to look for all these pictures to put them on the website.
During the trial, the judge had to prohibit Sante from speaking to the media, even when the jury was sequestered, because she got caught passing a note to a New York Times reporter during court.
Okay.
The judge was obviously concerned that she was trying to influence the jury.
Yeah, she is.
Sante planned on testifying in her own defense, but when the judge ruled that she could be questioned on her previous criminal history, she decided not to.
I think in this case, not taking the stand is in her best interest.
Irene Silverman's body has never been found. But Sante and Kenny were still convicted of her murder and 117 other charges.
Wow!
Including robbery, weapons possession, and forgery. During the sentencing phase, Sante blamed everybody, including her own lawyers, for framing her and her son for this murder.
Well, it can't be her fault.
Of course not. She continued to rant about prosecutors, quote, murdering the Constitution, until the judge literally told her to be quiet.
The only thing would have been better if she got up there and, what is it they say when they don't need a driver's license and stuff?
What?
So a lot of times people will get up in court and be like, based on the
sovereign citizen.
Yes, okay. Big like, based on the Treaty of 1812, I'm a sovereign citizen, blah, blah, blah.
Before delivering the sentence, the judge said Sante was a degenerate and sociopath, and that Kenny was a remorseless predator. Sante was sentenced to 120 years in prison, and Kenny received 124 years.
I hope they're in different prisons.
Yeah, they would be. In October 2000, Kenny was giving a prison interview to Court TV reporter Maria Zone, who had interviewed him previously. This time, Kenny seemed agitated, unlike his usual collected self, because he's a schmoozer like his mother, and he grabbed Maria and held up a ballpoint pen to her throat, keeping her hostage and demanding that he and Sante not be extradited to California to face the David Kasdan murder charges. After 4 hours of negotiations, Maria was able to escape when Kenny briefly moved the pen away from her neck while he was reaching for the hostage negotiator's business card.
Why would you think that's going to work? Where are you going to go?
I don't know. Not surprisingly, it didn't work, and Kenny and Sante were extradited to California in 2001 for the David Kasdan murder trial. Kenny broke from his mother and arranged for a plea deal.
Rolled on her.
Yep. In which both he and Sante would avoid the death penalty if he told authorities all the details of the murders, and he did.
The first honest thing he ever did, unless he lied about it.
Kenny then testified against his mother about their entire criminal history. He described both the David Kasdan and Irene Silverman murders in detail. Kenny admitted it was Sante who used a stun gun on Irene Silverman. Then Kenny strangled her, stuffed her body into a bag, and put it in a dumpster somewhere in New Jersey.
Jesus!
And this is our
cover photo.
Yeah, from their California.
Oh, I'm not liking the porn stash he's got going on there.
Kenny also told the court about Sante's killing of Elmer Holmgren, the lawyer who burned down their house. But no charges were filed in that case.
I gotta wonder how bad is this lawyer doing? If he's like, yeah, arson seems like a reasonable business move.
And then he's like, I really could get away. Costa Rica sounds nice.
I've been working really hard, been really burning midnight oil, so I think I deserve a vacation.
Shockingly, actually shockingly, I'm not being sarcastic, he also confessed to killing Syed Bilal Ahmed in September of 1996. Syed Ahmed was a 46-year-old banker in charge of an audit related to Sante's offshore banking activities in the Bahamas.
Okay.
Sante and Kenny invited him to dinner, drugged him, drowned him in a bathtub, and dumped his body in the ocean. No charges were filed in that case either.
You know, the next time Kava invites me to dinner, I'm going to really second guess. Because David might be trying to murder me. She needs me for the pod. I'm the only one who has the passwords to some of this stuff.
During the David Kasdan trial, Sante once again went on a long diatribe about her perceived misconduct perpetrated by the judicial system against her. And again, she had to be told to be quiet by the judge, who also said Sante was, quote, one of the most evil individuals, end quote, that she had ever encountered. Sante Kimes was sentenced to life for the murder of David Kasdan.
Good!
Following her conviction in California, Sante was returned to New York to continue serving her sentence for the Irene Silverman murder. She died of heart failure on May 19, 2014, at the Bedford Hills Correctional Center for Women when she was 79 years old. And here is a much more recent picture of her.
She got those dead eyes that sociopaths get.
Kenny Kimes remains incarcerated in California on a life sentence with no possibility of parole.
In his porn stash.
Mm-hmm. And that is the story of the mother-son duo, Sante and Kenny Kimes. And they're just...
The grossest thing, I think, is that they had some kind of, like, romantic relationship, likely.
Mm-hmm.
It was like,
and that was... Obviously, there's no proof of that. It could just be conjecture, but also they did nothing to dispel those rumors. There was... Kenny had said, either in an interview or on the stand, that, his mother was a very smart, beautiful, physically attractive woman or something like that.
Or was this part of his angle? Because if I set the groundwork to say that my mother sexually abused me my entire life, I have a potential out.
But it didn't work for him, if that's what he was trying to do.
Gross. You did a Nicole story.
I know.
And I could not find the actor. I'm going to find it, like, sometime in the next week.
Put it in the show notes.
I'm like, here it is, guys.
You have to check out, you have to keep monitoring the webpage to see when Nicole remembers the actors.
Buzzedandbaffled.net, because we couldn't get buzzedandbaffled.com.
There are several, like, 1 hour documentaries or whatever, like, People Investigates, those kind of a thing, 60 minutes, about her. Most of them only focus on the Irene Silverman murder because she was a socialite. That's kind of the,
she was like the rich famous one, but like she killed a lot of people before that.
And she did a lot of crimes before that. She had been convicted of like some insane number, like she'd been in jail like 11 times or something before any of this.
You think the police would see her coming into the city and be like, oh, we better keep an eye on this one because this is trouble walking.
And she was, gregarious and bubbly and the life of the party, but she was like a spider who would get someone into her web.
Well, you have to be gregarious and bubbly and everything because people won't trust you and like you if you come across as a serial killer.
Mm-hmm. There's a movie about her. I think it was maybe a Lifetime movie. I didn't watch it.
The Lifetime movies are the best. One of my favorite movies of all time, Mother May I Sleep with Danger, with Tori Spelling, is a Lifetime movie.
And one of the documentaries I also did not watch is, I think it was called The Devil Wears White. And we'll find the picture where she, like, 1% maybe Elizabeth Taylor in that one exact moment of her life. She doesn't look anything like Elizabeth Taylor.
She does not.
Especially not in her mugshot.
No, she does not look anything like Elizabeth Taylor.
So there you go.
Interesting. So next week, we're in Vegas.
Yes, we are.
So you get the pre-recorded episode,
which we recorded before we recorded this episode, so we flip-flopped time again.
And I had lied in that episode. I said the next one I was doing was about cannibalism, but I was wrong.
It'll be a Halloween episode.
Oh, I had one about capybaras, too.
Oh. No, because the next recording will be on November 1st.
Yep, so I have the Halloween episode.
So stay tuned for that.
I'm trying to remember what I wrote about.
And then,
nothing good.
The next couple of weeks are just crazy with, like, pre-recordings and flip-flops, and we have, like, one live recording between now and mid-November.
Well, I do have cannibalism coming up, but I also have capybaras. So, I'm trying to even it out, guys. No bad ones. Well, I appreciate that. But, do you remember our line? To the next pour, and the next plot twist. I was trying to mime it to her so she would remember, because since we're on site, it's not printed out on a huge sign in my room.